The Nuggets got their schedule. Let's look at it and break it down. You're watching CS 105.1, where I talk about sports with good vibes. Let's get it. How's it going, everyone, and welcome. I'm CS Chandler here for another take of Nuggets basketball. So the Nuggets got their schedule today, but before we get into that, I wanted to also talk about how AG and P-Watt visited the practice facility for the Broncos yesterday. It was pretty awesome to get some Nuggets action, even though they weren't really out, just seeing them kind of mingle with the other Colorado sports teams. It's always awesome. And definitely the Broncos are looking to have a good season, much better than they have in the past several seasons, past decade, I would say. But love seeing AG just sporting around Denver. I mean, he is Mr. Nugget for a reason, right? Because you can just tell he enjoys being in Colorado, being in Denver. He is definitely a Denver guy now. And then P-Watt showing the love as well. I mean, P-Watt's shown a lot of love over his time in Denver already with the Broncos. So miss having MPJ there. I know he was started to be a big Broncos fan. We'll see if he's still a Broncos fan now that he's on the Nets, or if he's switched over. I mean, I would doubt that he would turn into a Jets fan. I don't know how many people would actually willingly become a Jets fan. So there is that. But this schedule. So the Denver Nuggets finally got their schedule, and I got to say, it was kind of annoying leading up to it because they just inked out a little bit here and there of a game, the opening game, the Christmas game, and then we got some random game in November and some random game in December, and now we finally got the schedule, but then the Nuggets didn't even want to give us a full calendar schedule. They gave the schedule in this kind of weird design that made you kind of guess what day everything was and everything. It was very kind of annoying, to be honest. But then when you actually saw, they finally brought the actual calendar schedule, and I gotta say, I would be very interested to see on how this ranks in the column of most difficult seasons, because, man, this looks really difficult. It seems like the person who designed the schedule saw that the Nuggets had an amazing offseason and was like, no, we can't have them doing any good, so let's give them the worst schedule possible. We are tied with 3 other teams in the NBA. There are 4 teams with the most back-to-backs. The Nuggets are one of those teams. 16 back-to-backs. Are you freaking kidding me? 16? 5 of them. Well, actually, we'll get into it, but still, it's freaking crazy. That many. So let's get into, here's October. So we got October, which also includes the preseason, those 5 games, which I've already said. There's 2 home games out of those 5 games, but that one of those home games isn't really even a home game. It's a game in San Diego, which is just crazy. Out of the entire month of October, there are 10 games. Only 3 of those 10 games are literal Denver home games. So we have the preseason, which we're in San Diego. Then we go up to Canada for Vancouver for that Canada national thing or whatever. And then they go down to California, go on to take the Clippers, then come home to face the Bulls, and then head over to Oklahoma. Of course, Oklahoma and Colorado aren't very far travel. It's fairly easy to get there, so that's fine. And there's a lot of days in between there. I'm more concerned about the fact you have San Diego, and then 48 hours from there, you already have a game in Canada. Hey, that's probably the worst traveling day there. But then you start the actual regular season, and our first game is against Golden State in the Bay. And then immediately after that, we have our first home game in Denver, which is against the Suns. I'm liking this. I'm totally fine with these 2 games. I would love for the first game to be a home game, but, I'll take one against the Warriors, especially now, they're, I'm not so worried about them anymore, and I don't think a lot of Denver fans really are anymore. They've won 1 out of the last 10 games against us. We had a winning streak, right, for 9 games straight. It was only more recently under the Malone era. One of the last games actually that he coached was the first loss in 9 bouts against them. But then we got the Suns, and I'm definitely not stressing out about the Suns anymore. Like, that's going to be a good home game to, get that W there. So hopefully we have a chance to start the season off right this season. That's for sure. We get maybe 2 wins, and then we head over to face the Timberwolves. And that obviously is going to be a battle. I really hope this is the season where we don't get swept by them. I'm not saying that we got swept by them any other season other than last season, but I mean, they have proven to be difficult for us to win against. Though they keep on saying that the Timberwolves have a 6-0 winning streak against us. They must be forgetting that last preseason we did win once against them. And I guess that just kind of shows that people don't care so much about the preseason games, but I feel like they should count. They should definitely count. But then after that, we go to back home to Denver, take on the Pelicans, which that will be fairly easy. And I mean, out of all of the back-to-backs in this entire season, that's actually one that I wouldn't mind if that was the back-to-back. And then we had a little bit more time some of these other back-to-backs, because taking on the Timberwolves and then immediately the Pelicans, that's a good bounce back game for whatever reason. Even if we win, still good to get the W at home, keep the winning streak going there. And then we head over to Portland for our first cup game on Halloween against the Trailblazers there. And I mean, last season, I was not sweating the Trailblazers until they won at the very last second. That first game, if you remember, it was literally the first game against Trailblazers last year. And they got the W at the very last second because of Simmons. So, I mean, I hope that they don't, but I mean, they got Dame back. Who knows if he definitely won't be back for that game, though. I don't know when Dame will be back officially, but they do have Drew Holiday. And that is definitely something to be worried about. At least I feel like. I mean, he did lead 2 teams to a championship, so there is something to say about Drew Holiday. Then we go into November. And November, all the way until All-Star break, is the worst, most difficult period any team, I feel like, is facing. It's definitely the Nuggets. So we have our first game in November. We have a little bout of home games. We have a 4-game home stretch. First game is against the Kings. We'll see Brody back for the first time since he left, and hopefully we get that W. Then we're taking on the Miami Heat, which hopefully will keep our winning streak against them going. And then we're facing the Warriors again, and then the Pacers. This is our first back-to-back. This is not a fantastic back-to-back. This is not easy at all, even though the Pacers are down Halliburton and they lost Miles Turner. I mean, Obi Toppin is still fairly decent. You still got Pascal Siakam on there, Nimhard, and I mean, you have some good players still on there. I mean, TJ, he is still a really good defender. So I would not count the Pacers out completely, even though Halliburton is out and they lost their center, but Miles Turner. But I would still say that that's going to be a decent battle there. And then we are back facing the Sacramento Kings. This time we're in Sacramento, and they typically have a difficult time in Sacramento, but hopefully we continue, because we swept Sacramento last season. Hopefully we continue the streak. This would be nice. But then the biggest thing that really worries me here is that this is our second back-to-back of the season. And it's Sacramento, then we fly down to LA to take on the Clippers. And the Clippers are definitely one of my worry teams of the Western Conference this year. I mean, they've been fairly good against us, especially, during that playoff. And this is our first time in regular season facing them since the playoffs. So this is definitely going to have some kind of momentum. They're going to build some kind of story around this. It's going to be a struggle. I mean, they have the second best center and backup center in the league. I mean, we have the first, and then now this team. So then after that, we have the Timberwolves again. So we already get rid of our Minnesota away games in the first 2 months, and we've already faced them 3 times by this time. This is our 3rd time facing them within 2 months, and one of them doesn't even count. But then we head back home to face the Chicago Bulls, which hopefully that can be a decent, bounce back game. And then we're facing the Pelicans in New Orleans. And then we get our second cup game against the Rockets in Houston. This is also our third back-to-back. The back-to-backs are already stacking up. This is crazy. And so we get the Rockets, which undoubtedly will be more difficult this season. For sure, that will be more difficult. But hopefully we can still take them on. Hopefully they haven't really gotten to know each other. The new players haven't really, worked into the system there at that point so that we can get that W there. And then we're back home to take on the Kings again. We faced the Kings 3 times in November. Note, we haven't faced OKC not once in the beginning part of this schedule yet. Not once. So we take on the Kings in Denver. And then we fly out to Memphis. So within these last couple of games, I mean, this is the biggest thing, the biggest issue with this portion is the traveling. So we go from Sacramento to LA to Minnesota, back home to Denver, back out to New Orleans, to Houston, back to Denver, out to Memphis, back home to Denver, all the way to Phoenix for our 4th back-to-back. And then we come back home to Denver to face the Mavericks in December here, our first game in December. And then we fly out to Indiana. So we wrap up Indiana within the first 2 months. And then from Indiana, we go to Atlanta and then to Charlotte. Like, that's just an insane, whoever built that schedule did not have the Nuggets in favor at all. Like, they must have been Lakers fans or, Timberwolves fans or something, because this was not easy on the Nuggets at all. And so hopefully this is why we want that depth, that maybe hopefully the point guards that we've stacked up now can come into play and help us out here, especially all the other two-way guards that we just signed and everything. And then we get this stretch, of the, what would you call it, the playoffs of the Cup, the quarterfinals and semifinals and all that. Hopefully the Nuggets are in it. But let me see here. We're missing. There's a missing cup game here, because definitely missing the cup game. Oh, right. Okay. All right. So I missed that. So our first cup game is against the Portland Trail Blazers. Our second cup game is against the Golden State Warriors in Denver. And then our third one is the Houston Rockets. And then our last one is against the Spurs at home. So there's the 4 games, and they're all on Friday, which I guess that kind of works out. You get your Nuggets Cup games on Friday. And so then we get into this crazy traveling schedule here. And then after the championship, which hopefully, the Nuggets are better geared to win the Cup, or at least get to the finals or quarterfinals or whatever. That would be nice. And so then straight out of that, we're facing the Magic. We actually wrap up the Magic in 1 month as well. We just wrap them up in December. So we get them, and they're going to be much better this year too. So nothing to sneeze at. And that's in Denver. And then we get a day off, and then we're facing the Rockets. Get a couple of the Rockets games out now. And then a little 3-game homestand before we head out. So our last one there is against the Jazz before we head out on another back-to-back to face the Mavericks in Dallas. And then we're facing the Timberwolves again at home. So that would be our first home game against the Timberwolves is on that Christmas game there. And then we head out to Orlando to face the Magic and wrap that series up, as well as the Miami Heat game. So that's nice. At least they did put both of our Florida games fairly close together. But this, oh man, this travel is insane. To go from Miami all the way to Toronto. And you wrap up the year on a Toronto game. And then this January is the death month, I feel like. Like, that was already difficult enough. November and December was already difficult enough. And now you have January. And January starts off the 2nd. So this time we don't have a New Year's game. We're not in the New Year's game this year. But we are on the 2nd playing the Cavs. We're in Cleveland for that. And then we start the first of 5 back-to-backs in this game, or in this month. That's the insane part of this month. 5 back-to-backs. Like, I just don't know why they did this to the Nuggets. This is ridiculous. I mean, this first back-to-back is fine, right? You got our first game against MPJ with the Brooklyn Nets on the 4th, and then you face the 76ers, which they're already a dying team, so that's fine. And then you head to Boston, face the Celtics, who are also another dying team right now, but they aren't going to be, horrible. They still have Brown and Pritchard and Derek White. I mean, they still have a lot of good players. They just lost 3 of their best. That's all. But they were already a stacked team to begin with, so that's still not going to be a easy win there. And then we fly back home to Denver for the Hawks game, and I believe that means that we wrapped up the Hawks. Correct? Yes. So that means that we'll wrap up the Hawks on the 9th of January. And then we face the Bucks for the first time at home. And then we get our second in this 1 month of the back-to-backs in New Orleans against the Pelicans. And then we fly to Dallas to take on the Mavericks. Like, that's definitely a worse back-to-back. I mean, I'm fairly certain that game, Kyrie will probably be back for that game. So that's not going to be an easy game to win, especially on the second end of a back-to-back. And then we get our next back-to-back with the Wizards and the Charlotte Hornets, which, yes, that should be an easy game easy back-to-back to win. We statistically are better than both of those teams, but as we've seen last year, we had difficult even winning against the Wizards. So hopefully they come out better this season, and they learned from last season, and they do not let the Wizards win. So that's our first time facing them. And we actually wrap up the Wizards in January. So after the Charlotte game, then we're facing the Lakers, which I believe is our first. Yes, it is. It's our first time facing the Lakers this season. We'll be on Rivals Week there. So that's. And I like that the one Rivals Week game that we get is against the Lakers, because that's perfect. I mean, they mostly always try to pit us against the Kings or the Timberwolves, but I'm glad, or the 76ers for some reason. I'm glad that they actually took note and it's like, no, Lakers and Nuggets. But also, I don't know if you saw the schedule for Rivals Week. It's like all Lakers. It's crazy. I don't know why the Lakers are facing so many teams. Like, whoever built the schedule clearly wanted to see more Lakers, or maybe they just hated the Lakers so much and they make them have more matches. I don't know. But nonetheless, you got that game, and then you go on to the 4th back-to-back with the Wizards and then the Bucks. So you go from Washington to Milwaukee. That they're going to be tired from that. And then you fly back to Memphis, play the Grizzlies, then head home for a 4-game homestand where we face the Detroit Pistons, and then we finish up the month of January on our 5th back-to-back with MPJ for the first time back home in Denver, facing the Brooklyn Nets then. And then immediately after that, the Clippers come in and face us on the second end of a back-to-back there. And then we get a day off, and then immediately our first game of against OKC is in February 1st. So this February starts off with our first game of the season facing OKC. So we wait until February. That's crazy. And the only thing that I can think of that would work in our favor is if Jamal doesn't, it takes his usual couple of months to rev up and everything. By February 1st, he should definitely be on his A game by then. I mean, I'm still really praying and hoping that he starts off the season really well and we don't get a revving up at all with Jamal, but we'll see. And then after that, we get another back-to-back with the Detroit Pistons and then the Knicks. So the Pistons have already shown to be a very aggressive team. And then you get the Knicks right after that. And the Knicks are definitely trending upward. Yes, they got a new coach, but the team has been pretty much the same. And they did very well last season. I guarantee this is going to be another better year for the Knicks. And I actually kind of hope, as a slightly fan of the Knicks as well, that they do have a good season, just not against us. because the last 2 seasons, the Knicks have really taken it to the Nuggets. They've, I think, blown us out in multiple games of like 40 or more points. So that's crazy. And they're now the second end of a back-to-back there. And then we fly over to, so that's, we go to Detroit. We then, from Detroit, go to the Garden. And then from the Garden, we head over to Chicago to finish up the series with the Bulls. And then from there, we head back home to take on the Cavaliers and then the Grizzlies. And then it's All-Star break. And then right out of the All-Star break, we get another back-to-back. Like, these back-to-backs are crazy. Like, does anyone else agree with me? This is crazy. And once again, we get the Clippers in a back-to-back. We already got them at the end of January in a back-to-back. We got them in November on the second end of a back-to-back. The Clippers and these back-to-backs is insane. That is clearly someone favoring the Clippers having it out for the Nuggets. That's the only answer from in my head. So we face the Clippers, and then on the second end of that, we get the Portland Trail Blazers. So we go from LA up to Portland in 24 hours. And then we have a day off, and then we're back in the Bay to face the Warriors. And then we head home for a 2-day rest and face the Boston Celtics in Denver. And then another day rest, and then we fly back out to Oklahoma, take on the Thunder, which I don't know if you saw the post that was done by the Nuggets. They were embracing the chicken nuggets slander that people always try to hit us with, but it doesn't really mean anything. And they were trying to embrace it. And they were showing people these chicken nugget mascots of other teams. And these girls looked at the Thunder one and called them the Dust Bunnies. They didn't know that there was a Thunder. They just naturally thought it looked like Dust Bunnies. So I am now forever calling the Thunder the Dust Bunnies. So our first game in Oklahoma against the Dust Bunnies is on the 27th there of February at the end there. And then we're into March. And March starts off with another back-to-back. And the first game of this back-to-back is against the Timberwolves. Seriously, whoever built this schedule clearly has it out for the Nuggets. This is crazy. And so then, luckily for this back-to-back, though, we face the Jazz in Utah after this, but still, nonetheless, you have one of our worst enemies in the start of a back-to-back. They're definitely going to need an easy game after that if you have to have them in a back-to-back there. But then the back-to-backs don't stop, because then we get another one. And this one I feel like is the worst back-to-back, because we get the Lakers first, and then we get the Knicks. Like, I'm not worried about the Lakers so much as I am the Knicks on the second end of that back-to-back. Like, again, like, what the heck? And then we get a day off, and then we're back in Oklahoma to face the Dust Bunnies again. And then we're back home real quick for one game against the Rockets. And then we fly back to Texas, which, I mean, by that point, you should have just had our away game for the Rockets then. And just, had Houston and then San Antonio back to back. Like, that would make more sense. And then we fly out to LA to take on the Lakers. We faced the Lakers 3 times this season. We faced the Rockets, I believe we faced them 1, 2. We faced them 3 times as well. I'm okay with facing the Rockets 3 times. I don't really want to see them more than that. But I was kind of actually hoping that we would face the Lakers more than 3 times. Any time that we can face them more and sweep them more, or, win against them more, I love that. I would love to have less of the Timberwolves, and if apparently the league just wants more of Nuggets versus Timberwolves. They're really trying hard to build this rivalry between us, and is helping them every inch of the way, and their fans too. But then after this Texas back-to-back, then we fly out to LA, take on the Lakers, and then we have a couple of days rest before we face the dying 76ers at home, which obviously Embiid will be ducking that game again. I mean, I don't think we'll ever get an Embiid Jokic matchup in Denver ever again. Like, Embiid will probably retire, or Jokic will, before that even happens. So he'll duck that one. And then we face the Raptors at home, wrap that series up. And then we take on the Portland Trail Blazers at home. So we have a 3-game homestand there. That should be fine. Hopefully those should be 3 easy win games there for us. And then we go on to another back-to-back. Phoenix against the Suns. Hopefully that'll be easy, but then we face Kyrie. For sure he's playing on this game. Like, this will be the worst or the most difficult game against the Mavericks. This game right here. Note it. I'll write it on a post or whatever. CS says that the 25th of March will be the most difficult Mavericks game. The Nuggets versus Mavericks game there. And then we face the Jazz again at home in Denver. And we wrap up March with the Warriors visiting after that. And then we get into April, the last couple of games here. So our first game of April is against the Jazz. I mean, that kind of feels similar to last year. Didn't last season we also got the Jazz around the 1st of April, like the first game of April? That's crazy. And then the San Antonio Spurs, Portland Trail Blazers, Memphis again towards the end of the season, OKC is our last game at home. And this is one of the bigger issues that I have too of this schedule. We start the schedule off on the road. And I was hoping that meant that our very, very last game of the season would have been a home game. And yet we bookend it with another road game. Like, that was really disappointing. I was really hoping that the Nuggets would get their very last game being at home. But I guess our fan appreciation night will be against the OKC Thunder. So that hopefully they win. That would be nice to end our home game season with a win against the Thunder or the Dust Bunnies. Sorry, I already forgot what I was calling them. The Dust Bunnies. Hopefully we win against the Dust Bunnies. And then the Spurs is our very last game of the season. So this is the schedule. Let me know what you think in the comments, your take on the schedule. I think it's horrendous. I think it's way too difficult. Someone clearly has it out for the Nuggets. But, at the same time, the one positive thing that I will say about this schedule is that when we win the chip, no one can say that we had an easy run for that chip. No one. They keep on saying that we had a fluke chip in the 2023 year. They can't say this now. When we win the chip this year, they will not be able to say that it was an easy run, because this is way difficult. This is a very extremely difficult year. One of 4 teams with 16 back-to-backs. That is crazy. But the Dust Bunnies don't have that many back-to-backs. The Lakers don't have that many back-to-backs. The Timberwolves don't have that many back-to-backs. I know the Suns have that many back-to-backs. They're one of the 4, as well as the Charlotte Hornets are. And then I'm blinking on the last one. But like the other 3 are kind of more or less poverty teams right now. And so like you have us as the one good team in that group of 4 of the most back-to-backs. That's insane. So hopefully the Nuggets, the depth that they got will gear them up for this gauntlet of a schedule. This is definitely the gauntlet. Like, you can't even argue it. This is definitely the gauntlet. There's a couple of times where this is nice little breaks here and there. We have a nice little 3-game or a 3-day rest period in November before we go into that back-to-back. Then, I would not put it past the Nuggets to intentionally not make the Cup finals at all, just to be able to have that rest time. And then the All-Star break, obviously Jokic will be in the All-Star break again, but everyone else, unless, CB steps up and he's in the All-Star break, and Jamal finally, or AG, that'd be awesome. And then I think that's our longest break period. Other than the Emirates Cups, if we're not in the Emirates Cup finals, then the 3-day little break period in November is our longest break, because then it's just go until the end of the season. That's crazy. So let me know what you think in the comments. This is really, I'm already exhausted just looking at it, but we'll get through it, and that's what the Nuggets do, right? So very excited for this season regardless, and hopefully I'll be able to cover some games. I'm hoping for that. And that's pretty much all I got for this episode. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe, share it with your friends and family. And you've been listening to CS 105.1, where I talk about sports with good vibes. We'll catch you later.